And welcome to today's board development meeting. Today is Thursday, October 3rd. It is 10:01, and I'm calling this meeting to order. Ms. Hairston, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. So representing Educational District 2, we have our chair, committee chair, Ms. Aretta Baldwin.
Present.
We also have representing Educational District 5 and our board chair, Ms. Erica Mitchell.
Present.
Representing Educational District at Large Seat 9, we have Ms. Jessica Johnson.
Present.
As well as we have another board member present, which I would like to acknowledge present with us, and that is representing Educational District 1, Ms. Katie Howard. And we have a quorum.
Excellent, excellent. Good morning. Thank you. I'm shuffling some papers up here, so I appreciate you. We would now move to and I shuffled there we go. I will now entertain a motion to approve the April 18th Board Development Meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion, and there is a second. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the October 3rd, 2024 Board Development Meeting agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion. Is
Second.
there a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. We'll now move forward with our discussion items. And so the first item that we have is a mindset exercise. And this is something new that I'm introducing to this committee that I would like us to consider doing at a larger level. And we could talk about that later. But first, we're going to watch a short video. I figured the video is short. It was better to do it live as opposed to give you homework, because y'all have enough homework right now. So we're going to watch a short video and then have a short conversation on the back end. And again, this is something that I would like for us to consider doing moving forward, not just in board development, but something to consider doing at a larger scale with the board as a whole. All right, can we pull up the link?
Motion versus action. I'd love to kind of hear that concept laid out.
Yeah, so the core idea here is that not all actions are equal, and there are some things that you do that are purely like preparation for the things that can get you an outcome. So the one way I would define it is you're doing something, or you are in motion when you're taking actions that cannot lead to the result that you desire. However, you are in action, so when you're taking an action that can lead to the desired outcome. So as an example, if you go to the gym and you talk to a trainer, it doesn't matter how many times you talk to a trainer, that's never going to get you in shape. So that's motion. Whereas getting under the bar and doing 10 squats can actually get you in shape, and so that's action. So that doesn't mean that you should never talk to a trainer or that preparation is not useful, but it does mean that if you find yourself in the stage where your planning has become a form of procrastination, then you're planning too much, right? You're just kind of locked in motion. It's like that line about don't confuse motion with action. Like a rocking horse or rocking chair is always in motion, but it never goes anywhere. And, so they're different things. So that's kind of how I define distinguish between the two.
Yeah. And that seems to line up well with those kind of semi-annual reviews and integrity reports where like those can be the motion where you're kind of getting the pieces in place, but not actually doing anything. And then those 6 months in between are where you're executing on everything.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. It doesn't mean that planning or review is never necessary, but just that they should not be your only focus. Mm-hmm. And perhaps they should just be occasional check-ins and things. Also, the other nice thing about that is reflection and review gives you a chance to troubleshoot other areas where you might be in motion. right? Like if you do your annual review, you realize, wow, actually I wasted a lot of hours or I wasted a lot of days on this stuff that actually is not going to get a result. So it's sort of a way to troubleshoot or pinpoint some of those mistakes that you might be making elsewhere.
All right.
Did you like what you just saw? Well, great.
We can
Because
cut it. We don't need to give him his commercial. So that was a great video with a conversation about movement versus motion. And so I'm going to pose a question for us to consider. There are a lot of examples of motion that are necessary because they will set me up for effective action. What is one example of necessary motion in my leadership? And what is the action that will enable? So I'm going to give us a couple seconds. Actually, I'm going to give us a couple minutes because silence is golden. There are a lot of examples of motion that are necessary because they will set me up for more effective action. What is one example of necessary motion in my leadership? And what is the action that it will enable? And so I'm asking all those who are attending board development to just take a moment and to meditate on that video and that question. And then in about a minute, I'm going to ask if anyone is willing to share. So, of course, I'm willing to start, but I will open up the floor to see if there's anyone else that would like to share. And I'm going to say that I really resonated with that video. I am a planner, and I will say that sometimes the planning can end up being procrastination. However, with the question at hand, there are a lot of examples of motion that are necessary. So planning is necessary because they say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? So my example that comes to mind in terms of an example where the motion, the planning was necessary to set us up for action would be kind of the phase that we're in right now around the development of the strategic plan. And the first part of that, which is engaging the community to really have them understand that they are part of this process, and that the visions and values come from them. The goals and guardrails come from them. And so it was necessary that we had a weekly meetings to get our mindset right and to get planning right. And we're still not there, but it is setting us up for the action of the strategic plan. So that is the first thing that came to me in terms of motion versus action. There is a difference. I love the rocking chair reference. You know, you could be moving, but are you going anywhere? And so I'm going to pause and see if there's any of my colleagues that would like to share. And if not, that is okay. I would like for you just to continue to meditate on this, and I will ask again.
I'll continue to meditate on it. Anything,
Katie or Erica, any thoughts that you would like to share? And if it's not an answer to that question, possibly just a response to what you heard. Did it resonate with you? Did it connect? Did you find it valuable?
No, I found it valuable. I'm just going to chime in a little bit. It is valuable because a lot of times you can say what you want to do, but it's not until the action is aligned with what you're saying you're going to do that makes it happen. So when you look at us as a governing body, as a school board, it starts at the top. So we set the tone. We establish the goals, the guardrails, the visions, the values, and then that goes into the planning stage of the strategic plan, which is our roadmap on how we're going to get it done, the implementation. So when I look at, the conversations that we have at the very beginning to bring back the vision, the values from our community, then we're able to go into action by formalizing goals that are important from those visions and values from the community. Then from those goals, we have identified which we will embed in our strategic plan, which give us the roadmap on how it's going to be accomplished. So that's kind of how I look at it with what the framework that you set up this morning and what the mindset is. You have conversation, you can talk about it, you can have the motion, and then you have the action. So I think they go hand in hand, but it's not until the action happens is when the work is done. But the motion is the conversation to get to the action. So that was just my thoughts.
Thank you for sharing. Would anyone else like to share?
And so I think I'm thinking about the rocking chair as well, and just that the balance between those two dynamics, because you don't want to be kind of in the planning phase too long and then rush the action.
Right,
So I
right.
think that when we think about the work that we have ahead, it's urgent, and it's there's a lot of depth and breadth to what's ahead, and so wanting to be mindful of the balance between the planning time and the number of actions that need to be taken
Right.
over the next couple of months.
Excellent point about the speed of the movement. And if you're not, you do too much in planning, then you run out of time in the execution. So that balance. Excellent. Thank you for pulling that out, because that is definitely something that is top of mind right now.
For sure.
No pressure. You don't have to,
well, thanks
but
for letting me
I am
chime
just
in.
looking your way.
Yeah, no, thanks for letting me chime in. I think it's a great exercise, and I really appreciate this video and example. And great points, Erica and Jessica, and of course you, Aretta. I think always about like what our action is, because we're always really impatient for that action, and it's important to have the planning, but to support the superintendent in the execution, and then our job in executing some things, like what is that? Like us having the meetings on a regular basis to keep things moving forward, each one of us fulfilling our role, like us going out in pairs to the superintendent's meetings, like that's action, and it took some planning. But just that intentionality around what our action is, and I'm always thinking about that. I know we are too, and board development's going to be so helpful in helping us understand like what that is for everyone, that leads to the action that is meaningful support for students and improving their outcomes, that's sustainable. That it's not like these short-term, moments, but it's something we're building upon and we're checking on regularly. So, yeah, I'm excited to be a part of the planning motion and then the action. So I'm looking forward to these mindset exercises going forward. Thank you, Aretta.
So I thank you guys for entertaining this exercise and mindfulness, right? And just being mindful of what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how we can do it better. And I would love if we could do these types of exercises with a larger group. Of course, it would be great to do like some, big team building exercises, but knowing that this is an incredibly busy body, I think the most effective and efficient way for us to keep these mindset conversations going and to continue the building of trust amongst us would be to carve out times when we're already together and commit 10 to 15 minutes to do something like this. So if board development is in agreement that this is something that we should take the lead on, then I would love for us to work with board leadership in executing this. Any thoughts, feelings?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with identifying some time at the beginning of our meetings to really just get us centered in the work, and I think because we have had a number of retreats, it's good to kind of just have that constant refresher of what we're committed to.
Excellent. Board Chair Mitchell?
Yes, I'm in agreement with is what we used to call it in my former experience is a powwow. Like right before you get into like the retreats or the meetings, then you have that time to reflect the why am I here, what is my purpose, what are we tasked to do. So I think being able to go back um, before we start the work that we have to do and have that reflection is going to be key. And I'm okay with having those types of space, mindset, and opportunity to do that.
Excellent. Is it too soon for us to execute this at Monday's board meeting? We could,
Um, I think we could. I just need to. We got a review on Friday, so let me see what we can plug it in. How much time would you need?
I'm thinking, this took us about 10 minutes. I would say 10 to 15 minutes. And we could be set up where everyone isn't forced to share, but the space is there. So if we get a good number of people to share, I think it would be impactful.
Okay. We might have to plan that for November because everything is pretty much set. I thought maybe we can kind of fit it in at the beginning, but let's plan for November.
Sounds good. And then that way we can decide, is this the first one that we want to do, or if there is a better kickoff. I did briefly speak with Superintendent Johnson in terms of, Dr. Johnson, is there someone on staff that we can work with in developing these? And he did suggest Travis would be a great person for us to work through. So,
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
excellent, excellent. All right, yay,
Let's plan
thank you
for
guys.
November then. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. Our next item is board development policy language. So now that we have gone through our full training of SOFG, we've been re-energized, reignited, right, around the work. I feel like this is a great time now to review what we want to send on to policy in terms of codifying us as an official committee and what it is that we will do in this space specifically. So we do have our coach on the call, Ashley Paz, and she is going to give us her input in terms of where this stands right now, some things we should think about, and then we could go into discussion in terms of what we want to alter and change before we push this back to the policy committee. So I've given you guys all the draft language. You have that in front of you. And Ashley, are you with us?
Hi, hello, I am.
Excellent, excellent. So do you want
So I'm gonna, go ahead and introduce the policy as you wish.
it's on you. So we have a board development policy that we have sitting in front of us. It is a draft. The intent of the policy is to make us a formal committee and to specify what it is that our responsibilities will be. And the reason why we have you on board is because we are recommending that the work around our governance accountability be included in here. The floor is yours.
Great. So, thank you. And so I have just a couple of pieces of feedback on the policy language that was sent over to me. And it's actually very brief. So I think that the policy language is quite good. It focuses on a few different pillars that will kind of provide something for the committee to stand on. So I really want to focus on Pillar 3 and Pillar 4. So Pillar 3 is specific to the development and evaluation of board governance. And so it is absolutely acceptable for the committee to facilitate the self-evaluation process. And actually, I think that is a really great way to handle it. And lots of other boards do that. One of the things that I just want to lift up is that it is critical, like even though the committee is kind of quarterbacking the process, it's still critical for the board to have those quarterly discussions in a board meeting about the progress that's being made, because it is it's kind of an accountability check-in for the board as a whole with each other with the community and with the administration. Are there any questions about that piece of feedback?
So I just want to
give-
clarify, you're saying that board development can basically set up the process, but it is something that everybody participates in, and the discussion does not happen in board development. It happens in a full board meeting?
Yeah, well, there can be a discussion in board development, but it does what the work that board development does. That does not mean that there isn't also a necessity for the full board to have a discussion as well. It just may not be as lengthy of a discussion as what board development has, because you all have done a lot of the work in advance.
Okay. But it is clear that everyone participates in this.
Yes, and that's the important part, is that this is work that the entire board should own, because the entire board and the superintendent are your governing team. So they all have to own the governance work. But as far as handling the technical details and the processes, I think that the board committee is absolutely the right body to handle some of that minutia.
Any other questions around Pillar 3?
Yeah, I'm trying to get the policy. Just give me a moment, because I remember I wrote the first
Oh,
two drafts
shoot.
of it.
Yes, Erica, I did not, I forgot that this is where the committee, when you were chair, where y'all left off. I am going to, I'm gonna flip it to you right quick.
Give me 1 second. I gotta get, I'm having a little issues here. Just bear with me 1 moment. Trying to get back in my email.
No, you're good, Erica. And while you're looking for that, I want to. I also just want to name that I'm not suggesting changes to the policy. These are just considerations that I want you all to make sure that you're looking at as you continue this discussion about what the policy says.
Yeah, taking a minute. I apologize.
Erica, Mahogany is gonna send it to you, so it's at the top of your mailbox.
Okay, and that's what I'm having a problem with, is my email this morning. So, 1 second. Oh my goodness, hold on 1 second. Taking a minute. Well, I don't want to hold y'all. Y'all can go on to the next one. I'll circle back around. I don't have it yet. I'm just waiting for it to be sent, or it's not coming up on my computer, one or the other. I don't want to pull the old
Okay.
one because I know there's probably some markups on this new one.
So we'll move to her input for Pillar 4, and then hopefully when we finish that one, you'll have the document.
Okay.
All right. So on Pillar 4 is it is language that is specific to the strategic planning process. And again, this is not a change that I'm recommending. It really is just to lift up this fact again, just for the sake of repetition. So the strategic plan that the superintendent develops must be aligned to the goals, not the other way around. And I think that everyone is very clear about that. But I want to make sure that that is the understanding, that the board adopts the goals, and then the superintendent develops the strategic plan to accomplish those goals. That is quite literally what a strategic plan is. It is a plan to accomplish the goals. Or to accomplish whatever the mission is of whichever organization that you're dealing with. So whether it's a nonprofit or a school system or a corporation, they all deal with a strategic planning process, and that is a plan to accomplish the thing that the organization exists to do. And so because the board's adopted goals are their student outcome goals, and student outcomes are the reason school systems exist, that is the North Star for the strategic plan. And as Board Chair Mitchell mentioned earlier, that is quite literally the thing that the district is doing. The strategic plan is what guides us into the direction of achieving the goals. So that was just another piece that I wanted to make sure that everyone is really clear on, especially now with the newness of this governing team, to make sure that everyone is on the same page.
So number 4 may need a different name, because the thinking behind that is not the strategic plan, but it is what you said. It's like, now that we have adopted this, how do we strategically make sure that we are following that we're doing the work that we're supposed to do, right? So that was the thinking of that bullet point. It wasn't the strategic plan, but it was like, how do we now align everything with this governance structure and our priorities? So it probably needs to be named something else. Does that make sense, Ashley?
Yeah, it does. And that actually speaks to the final piece of feedback that I have, which isn't about one of the pillars, but it's when I shared this with you a couple of weeks ago, it's actually the heading I gave it was "What May Be Missing." And so hearing
Can you
say
repeat that? You said the heading.
It's oh yeah. So the heading that I gave it gave this feedback when I shared it with you a couple of weeks ago was titled "What May Be Missing." And so hearing you say that, what you just shared about the intention of this. So I do strongly recommend that the committee be responsible for monitoring the board's implementation timeline, which is very much aligned with your quarterly self-evaluation. So the implementation timeline is, it is your project plan. It is your work plan for how the board will be implementing the governance framework, or implementing processes to become more effective governors of the school system. And so if the board development committee is, if you all take on the responsibility of oversight for that implementation timeline, then that actually would provide a really great checks and balances, especially with Chair Mitchell on the board as well, because we have we need to have monthly check-ins with myself, with her, and the superintendent, really so that we have a time to discuss what is coming up, because the superintendent does need to be involved in those conversations. But the board development committee can help kind of lay the groundwork for that, or for those discussions as well.
Okay. So are y'all able to hear me?
Yes, oh, is that Erica?
Yeah, it's me. I didn't know if my volume was still on.
Yes,
so, ma'am. Okay, so I brought up the policy here. And I know there were a couple of I don't know what to say, I guess concerns about, hold on, put it back up again. What do we call it? I think it was Pillar 1. It says Council of Great City Schools Student Outcomes Focused Governance. And I hope we're looking at the same one. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 pillars, right? Council of Great City Schools Student Outcome Focused Governance Framework, and number 2 is continuing education. Number 3 is development and evaluation of board governance.
Yes.
And number 4 is strategic planning. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I had the right one up, because there was one original that was drafted, and it was this one that kind of gets.
This is a combined one.
Okay, so I remember, if I'm going back, that it was recommended that we didn't put Council of Great City Schools Student Outcomes Focused Governance Framework. It was recommended that we put governance framework and not call out the naming of it.
And that is because we're making it our own?
Yes.
I'm aligned.
Okay, I'm just going back to my notes. So I just want to make sure it was that. But
Yes.
what we would do was put all the elements under one that we should be doing around this framework. So like it says where it says the competency include vision, goals, values, guardrails, monitoring and accountability, communication, collaboration, unity, trust, and continuous improvement. So I guess what I want to say is that what we want in that line, or do we want to add additional, or do we want to tweak it to fit to customize the framework we're doing?
I'm fine with just removing CGCS, SOFG, SOF, and just have it be governance framework. I do believe that the other pillars are necessary to spell it out in terms of like that moving number 4 from strategic planning to implementation.
Okay.
Can I just jump in? So I think what might be missing from number 1 is like we don't clearly say what the committee's role is in that space. And so when Ashley was talking about, I guess the timeline, the implementation timeline, and those other pieces, maybe we need to add something that clearly says what the committee is going to do in regard how the committee is going to support the governance framework specifically.
So possibly moving that 4 up to support under 1? Or no?
I would say no, because when I was for me, number 4 is board level strategic planning,
Yes.
and so that I would probably rename it that, because it's, in my opinion, more of how we're going to kind of lead and make some recommendations around changes in processes around like when board requested presentations come around, can we ask our colleagues to align those with SOFG goals, right? And so those kinds of asks feel like us saying from each committee, what are the internal committee goals around literacy and numeracy and those pieces. So for the policy committee, what are they looking at over the year, so that it's a little more aligned, because we don't always know. Like, I don't know what the right hand is doing, what the left hand is doing, and so if we were a little more aligned with all of our committees identifying over this year, these are the ways we're going to look at policy, these are the ways we're going to look at the budget, these are the ways we're going to look at audits, and so we could have more of a quantifiable impact at the end of the year. I think so. That's more board level strategic planning than it is the governance framework for the entire district. Does that make sense?
No, it does, and
Yes.
I agree with you having a board strategic plan and how we operate within this framework.
Ashley, is that confusing to have? I mean, I see the necessary pieces, but is that confusing to have the word strategic plan in 2 places?
But yeah,
Because I believe that you pushed back a little bit on that before. And so can you help
Yeah,
us
so
in terms
it's
of?
not, yeah. So it's not, I mean, whatever the language is that you want to use, so my only thing is to encourage you all to use language that's going to be clear for your community. And so if y'all are using the terminology strategic plan, I would put some kind of modifier in front of that, so that it's clear that this is the board's the board strategy for how they're implementing their governance framework, not just and that it is not the superintendent's strategic plan, which I think that can be a little bit confusing in general. But it really is it's up for you all to decide. And worst case, you use this language now, and then it turns out that it is really confusing and people have a reaction to it. We can always come back and fix it.
well, I think it is confusing having a strategic plan, but then I had a chance to look at what number 3 really talks about, development and evaluation of board governance. And it's put the board self-evaluation, the governance manual, and then, it talks about refining board procedures, process, and
processes, and
protocol.
protocols.
And I think some of this, what we're talking about, with presentations and stakeholder engagement, all that stuff could go under a board procedure, a board process, or a board protocol, where you might not need to have the fourth pillar strategic planning.
So it's almost kind of hearing, I almost feel like if you add implement also, development, implementation, and evaluation. And is it, I do like the idea that it's mentioned that these things should align to our goals and our visions and values. So maybe we write that in.
Yeah, actually, this includes.
Yes.
Asking for presentations going forward.
Okay. Erica?
Yeah, what do you say?
That sounds doable. Y'all
Yeah.
gonna have this mathematician working on these words. It's gonna be fun.
You want to wordsmith it.
Okay. So
I don't have a problem working it. You just need to get some notes down.
So we've got a good amount of input. I think we're really close. And take a stab at adding these words. I'm gonna work with you, Nina. And getting this to a place where we can review in concept-wise, be okay with it, and then we can give it to our wordsmithers, our grammar experts, and they can make sure that the commas are in the right place and the shalls or whatever are what they need to be. How does that sound, y'all?
That's fine with me, because it does have to go to policy committee
Yes.
after we digest it.
Yes, we just need to clean it up and get it to a space. There was one thing that they had a question on, and I'm trying to see if it's in here. And it was how the chair was elected.
Yeah, I did so that was what I was working on, because I like how audit committee do it, but it was in the original one where we had opportunity to say, okay, do you want the board chair to appoint the committee chair, or do you want the committee to self-elect its chair? So
So we have it in here that the committee themselves will elect the chair. Which, like you said, is how audit does that. And so I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that we are aligned. That's what we want to do if we feel this is the best case. I believe that was just one of the questions policy asked about.
Yeah, because the board development it's a lot that comes through this, and you want somebody who truly want to lead this work. And I think it's I think it's best for the committee to say, okay, this is the best person we think to lead the work, versus kind of how it is when you gotta put people on committees, and some people want to serve, some people don't. You just want the right person, the right fit for that type of work. That's all.
Jessica, are you aligned with that?
I am.
The other thing was, we do have on here that the board is allowed to appoint from the community at least 2 outside non-voting advisors to the board development committee who are residents of the city of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Thoughts? Are we still okay with that? Do we believe that that's going to add value? Is that going to help with accountability? Is that going to help? Honestly, because a lot of times we're talking to ourselves, but having that outside voice, I know I appreciate it in audit. And ideally, it would be someone with possibly some expertise around team building, development, planning, in those spaces. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, we did it the last time. We had appointed 2 people, the late Cedar Cook and then also Casey Vennings were the 2 appointees for the committee. And I know, Cedar Cook had, passed away, and so we had to reappoint. But I think it's beneficial when we talk about us as board members bringing a vision and values from the community, from the parents, from our stakeholders to the table. It is good to have some people to lean in and weigh in on some of the things that we are doing, just to give us that input and feedback.
So, question just kind of popped up in my head. If we do that, and just heads up, our coach had to pop off the call because she had some things that she had to handle with her personally. And so if we do bring these people on, would we require or introduce to them to the training that we've had so they can be on the same level in terms of
Yes.
of what does this look like, and
Yeah.
is that okay? I just want to make sure that
No,
that we
you're
are
going down
aligned
right
in that.
path.
knows
Yes, you are.
everything that we're talking about.
Okay. Do we
Yes,
have
you're going
a
down the right path on that one. So what it would kind of look like, and I said in several, South G workshops with AJ, Ashley, and a couple of people, and what they did was they brought in community members that went through the training, and they community members expressed how beneficial it was for them, because then they have the opportunity to understand it and they can articulate it back to, the parents and, the community. So if they did, I guess what the community training that South G has, they are committed to just do that to understand it. So they are on the same page with this. But I do want to say one thing is that the board development policy is not just catered to the framework
right?
of student outcome focused governance. It is also, we have to look at that. That's one component of it, but it's also the continuing education, like
Correct.
with the required hours that we have to have with GSBA. I know with GSBA, they asked us to appoint 2 people to the board development committee. And I'll go back and look at that, and that was Cedar and Casey Bennings. We had to have two community members regarding the governance as a whole. So they will also have to be open to knowing what our compliance is through this Georgia, the GSBA.
Yes.
Also weigh in, and if they can, attend some of our retreats or seminars or workshops or whatever it might be. So we will have to develop what that role would look like for the 2 appointees. The committee would find those appointees, ask them if they would like to serve, and this is the capacity, this is the role and responsibilities that they would have. And that's something that we can build out and develop through board development under you, Chair Baldwin, and how that looks in alignment with the work that we have to do in the policy.
Excellent. So for right now, we have written in that there will be committee members that come from committee members that come from the community, and to address your concern about board development and doing things other than governance, we do have continuing education as number 2. So the board conference schedules and monitoring training hours are definitely included in that. And yes, as you mentioned, GSBA best practices also suggest that community members be a part of this committee. So we will make, so if everyone is aligned with what we've discussed, we will make those adjustments and bring it back to us to review, and then hopefully go release it to policy. Sound good?
Yes, sounds good.
All right, I see nods. All right. So we are now moving to letter C in the agenda, where we're talking about our student outcomes focused governance and where we are in next steps. So committee, as you're aware, we are out in the community having initial conversations around, honestly, the development of our visions and values as we move into our next strategic plan. And there is some active planning happening behind the scenes, and Board Member Katie Howard is here and been very active in helping get us this together, as well as our coach. So just to back up a step, in terms of engagement, what we're doing now is initially communicating to the community that we are now at the beginning of developing our next strategic plan. And the first thing that we need to do in that development is to engage and speak with our community about what it is that they want. We're speaking to community as owners and not as customers. So as owners of the system, what is your vision 5 years from now? You know, what do you want our students to be able to know and do, right? So to really engage the community around that. And then we would take that input and work with the superintendent to develop our goals and our guardrails, because our goals are aligned with the vision of the community and our guardrails are aligned with the values. So where we are now, again, is we're doing an initial conversation before the superintendent 100-day engagement. But where we are now, actually as soon as tomorrow, is we're planning the next phase of the in-depth conversation with the community. The initial thinking is this will happen in quadrants. So acknowledging Jessica's concern about time, we don't want to rush this. We want it to be thorough, but we also can take advantage of large groups, because the way this will be structured is we'll start with an initial conversation, then we will break out into small groups and then come back together, right? And everything will be captured and recorded. And so what the plan is to set up what those 4 meetings will be in quadrants. So just think north, south, east, west, large groups. So this would be, and I'm thinking out loud because this hasn't been planned, but just to try to help you vision what this looks like. These big meetings would be where we would invite your MPUs, your large organizations, neighborhood folks, community leaders, like everybody. Like honestly, we want everybody to come. And you would not be restricted to your region. You could go to as many as you want, but the intent is to have a large all call where we are getting information, specifically information from the community about what is their vision and what do they value. So that would be engagement. Then there's also another piece called outreach. And outreach is when we would go to existing meetings and present. It would look a little different because my guess is we may only have 5 minutes versus an hour like we would plan, or an hour and a half for our larger meetings. But this would be us popping in and saying, hey, we need you, we need your voice, this is what we're doing, and take the time to fill out this form. So those would be outreach. And so ideally, we're gonna do engagement and outreach, both to get the big picture of what the community values and what is their vision. We would then take that information and come together with the superintendent. Now, while we're doing that, the superintendent is going to be doing, and administration, is going to be doing a deep dive into what is our reality, where are we, what's going on, looking at the subgroups, and trying to identify opportunities. And we're going to come together. The superintendent is going to have what is, and we're going to have what we want, like the vision. And we're going to come together and we're going to build a bridge between those two. What is and where do we want to go? And that is going to be our strategic plan. Note, hopefully it's not confused, that the board does not create the strategic plan. The board gives the superintendent the vision and the values. Together we set the goals, and then the superintendent puts together the strategic plan to tell us how we're going to make it happen. So that's kind of a big picture vision of where we are and what's next in this engagement plan and how it's going to feed into the strategic plan. So I'm going to stop because I've said a whole lot. Questions, concerns, issues, volunteers? So right now, Katie Howard has graciously volunteered to be a key player in this planning, and you are so appreciated. So that's kind of where we are. So if you haven't done your homework, I'm speaking now to my board members, because I know y'all are watching because you can't be here, but you're tuned in. And I really need you to give me your list of who these invitations need to go out to, because we want everyone to be included. We want to we want everyone to be invited to this party.
I would say maybe the easiest way is to just revisit the list when we were going through our superintendent search. That felt like a very robust network of groups that we reached out to across the city, and maybe use that as our foundation.
Excellent
and you can
idea.
add to it. Mhm.
So maybe what we can do, and Dina, if you can help us out with that, if we can make it easier for our board members and maybe send them that list and say, look at this and make sure all your people are included, who's missing, who needs to be added, as opposed to having them recreate from scratch. Excellent idea, Jessica. Thank you for that. And then for our meeting tomorrow, if we can have that list with us as a starting point, that would be great. There was one other thing, Jessica. You were very vocal and engaged when talking about the implementation, and I would love if you would step up and help to map that out and lead that. Is that something that you're willing to do?
For you, absolutely.
Sorry for putting you on the spot. Nothing like being voluntold to do something like in public on camera, right? Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Jessica. Okay, so I lost my thought, but going back to where we are in terms of board engagement, I love the idea of bringing in those thoughts. Community, anybody listening, if you got a list, if you got some folks you want to make sure included, send them our way, please. Don't assume that we have you on the list. Just say, hey, count me in, I want to be there. Or make sure you include.
I was just curious, will these also be virtual? Like, will we be
Yes.
live streaming
Yes.
for people that aren't able?
Yes, definitely. I think we have seen that doing things both virtual and in person it increases our reach. So definitely, and possibly even consider maybe adding a fifth one that would be 100% virtual, where 4 regions and then a 100% virtual. It's something we can bring that to the table. And so Katie is actually mentioning the board engagement plan that she had. So we are using your engagement plan as a base because it was written before we moved into our strategic development. So what I would like to do is take that plan and put dates on it. So after we meet with Travis and everything is mapped out, just like we have a monitoring schedule for when we're going to talk about the interim goals, I want us to have a implementation or governance schedule where we have when are the self-evaluations. That's clearly written down in there. When are we doing our engagements? Let's map them out for the year, because based on the plan that Katie has mapped out, we should be going out once a quarter after we've done this engagement to communicate with the community where we are and to provide updates. So that plan, the skeleton that we have, the vision is that will turn into something similar to the monitoring schedule that has dates in it that the community can know ahead of time. This is when we're meeting, this is when we're getting updates. And ideally, with everyone being involved from the beginning, we're gonna have alignment and good conversations, right? And some excellent accountability. That's the vision. All right. So, number 2 for soft G, we kind of covered already. Any other discussion items? So the last thing is our board staff has updated our conference schedule. And so basically what these are lists of conferences that historically board members have found impactful and useful. And it just lists when they are, where they are, so board members can plan. But I am excited to share. I am so excited to share that we are almost 100% compliant with training hours. Yeah, we have like 8 out of 9 of our board members have exceeded their training hours. And that includes our brand new members that have a high bar of 15 hours. So congratulations to everybody on that. So be mindful that the 24-25 conference schedule has been posted, and if there are any other conferences that you deem valuable that need to be added to this list, please share. And the board training card is up to date, and as I mentioned, we are in a great place in terms of training. And this is 24-25, so we have the end of the school year to complete these, and we're already exceeding expectations. So congratulations on that. Is there any
No, I think it's great.
any other business to discuss? Okay. And Ms. Hairston, do we have public comment? Hold on, let me check this large audience in front of me and see if anyone has their hand raised to speak. Oh, no, nothing? Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So, well, I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Board Member Johnson and seconded by Board Chair Mitchell that we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. We're adjourned.
All right, thank you, ladies.